Impact stories are critical for your nonprofit. Here are the 7 steps to build your message. Step 1, though it might seem obvious, is to identify your story. Now, first thing is, ideally, you don't want to make something up. Now, maybe you can talk about something in a hypothetical sense, but we really want to be incredibly authentic here. We can protect people's privacy, especially if we're in a healthcare or a human services type industry, but you want to have some way of identifying a pipeline of stories. Yes, it's great to find that perfect one that we can share, but what are the mechanisms that you have in place to identify what stories you have? If you are in the fundraising department, and there are other staff people who are in kind of the service delivery department, so this would be like a hospital, the frontline workers, or social workers in a human services nonprofit. Having some direct line of communication or some means of capturing story incredibly effective at some regular interval. You don't need more than maybe one a month just as a place to start, but you have to figure out what story am I going to choose. Here are some of the characteristics that might work well for that. Someone's life or situation was changed. They were experiencing something, our nonprofit intervened, and as a result of that intervention, this happened. There was some sort of translational change before and after we were able to help them. Secondly, we want to focus on the individual. It would be great to talk about, oh, we've helped 1,000 people, or look at these 30 people, or look at all these families. But if we can really narrow it down to singular person or singular family, singular entity, way more powerful from an emotional storytelling standpoint. One person that we've helped. And finally, do we have permission, or can we at least anonymize the story in some way? There are obviously some safety concerns, there's some HIPAA concerns if you're in the healthcare field, so make sure that we have some combination of, there was some impactful change made, we've narrowed it down to one entity, one person, one family, and we have either permission or a way to make the story totally anonymous. Better if we don't have to, but obviously depending on the nonprofit and the type of people we serve, it might be helpful to have that written permission, consent, they're excited about telling their story, or however we want to structure that. Step 2, when to outline the story, but make it real. So you want to kind of have a step-by-step of, they were this, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then now they're this. So you have kind of a step-by-step. Again, we kind of talked about change when identifying the story. Once you've identified your story, what are the different story beats that happened? Well, first they were this, and they were struggling with this. Luckily, we were able to support them in this way, or save their life, or save their family, and now they're this. You need a before, a during, and after, and we don't want to make this up. Again, going super authentic in our identification process, but as we're going through this, it needs to be real. It needs to be something that actually happened, and we kind of outline the steps before, during, and after. Number 3, from your outline, you want to develop a narrative. Now, I'm sure you've all seen this graph from English class before, but you have kind of the introduction, rising action, and then a falling action. Like most stories kind of follow this, this is time this way, and the story kind of has this. So like, Lord of the Rings, they're here in the Shire, everything's good. Frodo gets the ring here, and he heads out on an adventure, and it all goes worse and worse and worse as you go through the movie series, and then he destroys the ring right here, and then you have this 2-hour ending to that movie where we have the falling action. Usually the falling action is a little shorter than that. But that's kind of the story arc that we have. So see if you can identify these points for your character, even though they're a real person. You do want to develop this kind of storytelling structure. So this is just exposition, exposition in here, this is the person that they have, this is the thing that we have. We want to introduce a problem. So this is the, hey, they're just like you. This is a person, they're very much like you and I, we can relate to them. But then at this point, they have this thing that they're struggling with, or this problem that they have, or this medical condition, or they don't have access to food or water, or whatever the thing that we're saving them from. And that made it worse for them. Obviously, their life got hard as a result of that. But we were able to intervene through here. And then this happened, and now we have this nice fall off here. So just keep in mind, this is the classic narrative storytelling structure, and we want to kind of mimic this. Again, not gonna make stuff up, not gonna stray outside of real life events, but we do want to have this narrative based on our initial outline of what we've built here. Number 4, incorporate data and facts. This is where you can bring in not necessarily other people's stories, but kind of the global problem as a whole. Not this is this rare occurrence where this one person struggles with this thing, but thank God we have this whole organization that was able to help just them. Just kind of zoom out and say, hey, This is a pretty systemic problem. This is something that we've noticed that a lot of people have. We're gonna dial in today on this person, but there are 10,000 people just like Johnny, or 10,000 animals just like Jake the dog who need your help too, and this is how we're able to intervene. So we're kind of being granular with our emotions and storytelling, but as we're walking through this, we're trying to show a little bit of the zoomed out lens through data and through facts. Here are 3 easy ones to use. You can go with percentages. X number of animals are not able to blank because they are blank. X number of kids don't have access to blank. And you can say, we want to take that number from 47% to 80. So you can work it through that way. We can do number of people served. There are this many people or this many families or this many animals who have this problem, and we're trying to help this many of them. And of course, before and afters. Say this was a disaster relief charity. We could say before our intervention, 1,000 people didn't have access to clean water, but following our intervention, only 200 or maybe even 0 did. So we have kind of the before this was the problem, but because of our intervention, this many people now have this. And we can tell the story of one person who struggled through getting access because of a hurricane or an earthquake or something, and we can walk our audience through the narrative as long, again, as it's real. We're not making stuff up, but we're kind of showing these are the real people, these are the real families that we're having an impact on. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you're getting value out of this but would like something more personalized, you can book 30 minutes with one of our experts to see if you qualify for our support services. Link below in the description. Step 5 is to use emotional language in your story. So as best we can, by sticking to the truth still, we do want to dramatize our story. So we kind of take it from a facts and a news report into I'm telling a story. There's emotional characteristic to it. There's maybe some persuasive language in that. And I can give you some examples of this. So I've just pulled up ChatGPT and had it give me a bunch of examples that hopefully will help you think of what emotional language you might be able to use in your appeal. Here are some that it gave me. Maria never thought she would end up homeless, but after losing her job and facing unexpected medical bills, she had nowhere to turn until your support helped her find a safe place to sleep. And that expresses empathy and urgency and gratitude instead of Maria was a homeless person and now she is not. It's like those are facts with not a lot of emotional language injected in, not a lot of dramatization in there. But if we can use emotional language to kind of fill in the gaps, we're not changing the facts, but we're just humanizing it. We're making it feel more relatable for you and I to put ourselves in Maria's shoes. Here's another example. Every night, thousands of children go to bed hungry, their stomachs aching for a meal that they may never receive. But today, you can change that. So it's kind of an empowerment message, like aching. That's a pretty descriptive word. And then kind of flipping right to the call to action, like, hey, you can change that. Here's the action you can take to fix that. You can be the interventionist for us. I'll give you one more. James was just 7 years old when he was diagnosed with leukemia. Thanks to generous donors like you, he received the care he needed and is now a thriving, energetic 10-year-old. So this is kind of the opposite. We don't have to have this negative doom and gloom. We don't want to over-negative our language. We can say thriving and energetic and use these very hopeful phrases, these very hopeful words. But again, emotional language, we're going to add a little bit of just dramatization in there to make it feel more like a human connection. All right, number 6 is to include visuals. Now, this could be all kinds of things. I think maybe the first thing you might think of is photographs, and if that is legal and appropriate, can certainly do that. Video, even more compelling. If you have a testimonial video of someone sharing their story, or like a father talking about how the surgeon saved his daughter, like that's money. That's gold right there. We can relate to that. It feels incredibly human without having to do much else. But if you don't have access to video or photos, or you don't want to use stock or AI generated images or photos, you can use graphs, you can use infographics, but something that's not just plain text really helps sell the medium. Not that a written story wouldn't be effective, but we know that spoken word or video or images all are better emotional manipulator tools. And we're not trying to manipulate our donor base, but we are trying to get them to feel something, to say, hey, we want you to put yourself in this person's shoes or this family's shoes just for a minute so that you can experience some of the things that they might be going through. And that would then compel you, hopefully, to partner with them or to partner with us in some way. And we do that by including visuals. So I'll just draw a visual here just for illustration purposes. This is my happy person. Or maybe he's not happy. Maybe he's sad. And we don't want to over dramatize too much, but maybe there's another one here and they're happy together. Or we're reuniting families, or we're a foster care organization. Again, we don't want to go with the overly sad photos, the overly, like the Sarah McLachlan commercial type thing. Kind of effective, kind of I don't know. It depends on your opinion on that, but don't overdo it with the sad photos, but we do want to have some sort of visual tie-in so that we have this kind of before, during, and after, and we're not relying just on plain written text to sell our story and sell our mission. All right, the seventh and final step is include a call to action, or a CTA. So we go through this whole process of building a narrative structure, talking about a story, going through every single step. We got visuals, we got emotional language, we got our wonderful appeal, and now we've made this prospective donor or this prospective supporter feel something. Well, hopefully in that moment, we want them to direct their attention and behavior towards something specific. We want them to take some sort of an action, and that might be give, it might be support, it might be call, it might be volunteer. Most of the time in fundraising appeals, we're focusing on giving, but not necessarily always. We might have a specific thing we're trying to get people to do, but whatever that is, and you even saw it in some of those examples that we came up with, where give today, or with your help, we can fix this. So we have this very specific, yes, we've made you feel a way. We've maybe put you in the shoes of someone who's in need or needs our help, or that we're able to serve as an organization. And here's how you can help. We just need you to do X, Y, and Z. We just need you to give. Go online and make a monthly contribution today. So whatever that is, make sure you have some CTA at the bottom of your impact. Hopefully using these steps, you can kind of walk through and build your own impact stories, your own impact reports, and don't be afraid to share them in as many places as possible. You can put them on your website, you can use them as a send ahead for donors, as a leave behind for when you make a solicitation, or just as informational stuff that you send out. But either way, facts tell, stories sell, so get out there and write your impact story. If you need additional help in writing your story, you can head to pridephilanthropy.com and talk to one of our experts. On our website, click the Let's Chat button to schedule a call. It's free, it's short, and it'll get you headed in the right direction.